Well, hello, church, and happy 4th of July weekend. We are so blessed to be in the land of the free, where we can freely worship God and come together, even virtually, to study His Word. And while I'm your guest speaker today, hopefully I'm not a stranger to many of you. I am a member of the Heights Church family, and while we aren't together in a building today, I'm sure I'll share with you how thankful we all are to be part of just an amazing community and church family. Before I get started, I want to tell you a little bit about what I do. And as a ministry, I'm part of the Mighty Oaks Foundation, which I'm the founder of. And a lot of people from the church already know about Mighty Oaks and support Mighty Oaks. But for those who don't, Mighty Oaks Foundation is a veteran service organization that's faith-based. We provide care and services to those who are struggling with veteran suicide. If you don't know, the suicide rate is over 20 per day. Those who are struggling with military divorces, up to 80% from our combat military families. And those who are struggling with post-traumatic stress. After 20 years in the war on terror, we have over 30% of our warriors still being diagnosed with PTSD. And so we provide a faith-based solution to those things. We do resiliency programs. I travel around the world to military bases and speak to active duty troops on spiritual resiliency, suicide, post-traumatic stress disorder, divorce, things like that. I've spoken to over 150,000 active duty troops. And then we have a recovery program where we have 4 ranches around the nation in Texas, Colorado, Virginia, and Ohio. And we bring warriors from active duty in the veteran community, as well as first responders and spouses, to these programs for absolutely free. We even pay for their travel. We bring them there and for 6 days, and we do about 30 of these camps a year to really help them align their lives to the lives they were created to live and move forward to the life that God has in store for them. And then we have an aftercare program, which Charlie and Kathy Kuhn are part of our aftercare program here at the Heights Church, working with the organization we're partnered with called Reboot, and doing aftercare. We do tons of things for people that after they come to our program to get the care they need. Outside of that, I'm on the FBVSA, which is the Faith-Based Veteran Service Alliance. That's a White House initiative where I'm the chairman of it. And we work with the VA, the DOD, the White House, and Congress. And I've testified several times before Congress on the best solutions for veterans care, faith-based solutions. I've advised the presidential administration on faith-based options for veterans care. And I've also been able to champion some legislation along with the White House and members of Congress to bring faith solutions back to our warriors. Last week, I was really honored to be part of a small group of people that was invited to be at the White House. I was with the president and vice president and some members of the administration, and we rolled out what's called the Prevents Task Force, which is the president's roadmap to empower veterans and end the national suicide tragedy amongst veterans. And the great news I have to share with you is this is executive orders and legislations that brings faith as a solution to our warriors. And we're just having such a great time in our nation to be able to see those type of things come available in our nation where the government can work with faith entities to bring hope, to bring healing, and bring restoration to our nation. If any warrior that hears this message, whether you're active duty military, from the veteran community, a spouse, or even first responder, hears this message and wants to know more about our programs, or you want to support those programs, you go to mightyoaksprograms.org to learn more. Well, hello, church, and happy 4th of July weekend. We are so blessed to be in the land of the free, where we can freely worship God and come together, even virtually, to study His Word. And while I'm your guest speaker today, hopefully I'm not a stranger to many of you. I am a member of the Heights Church family, and while we aren't together in a building today, I'm sure I'll share with you how thankful we all are to be part of just an amazing community and church family. Before I get started, I want to tell you a little bit about what I do. And as a ministry, I'm part of the Mighty Oaks Foundation, which I'm the founder of. And a lot of people from the church already know about Mighty Oaks and support Mighty Oaks. But for those who don't, Mighty Oaks Foundation is a veteran service organization that's faith-based. We provide care and services to those who are struggling with veteran suicide. If you don't know, the suicide rate is over 20 per day. Those who are struggling with military divorces, up to 80% from our combat military families. And those who are struggling with post-traumatic stress. After 20 years in the war on terror, we have over 30% of our warriors still being diagnosed with PTSD. And so we provide a faith-based solution to those things. We do resiliency programs. I travel around the world to military bases and speak to active duty troops on spiritual resiliency, suicide, post-traumatic stress disorder, divorce, things like that. I've spoken to over 150,000 active duty troops. And then we have a recovery program where we have 4 ranches around the nation in Texas, Colorado, Virginia, and Ohio. And we bring warriors from active duty in the veteran community, as well as first responders and spouses to these programs for absolutely free. We even pay for their travel. We bring them there and for 6 days, and we do about 30 of these camps a year to really help them align their lives to the lives they are created to live and move forward to the life that God has in store for them. And then we have an aftercare program, which Charlie and Kathy Kuhn are part of our aftercare program here at the Heights Church, working with the organization we're partnered with called Reboot, and doing aftercare. We do tons of things for people that after they come to our program to get the care they need. Outside of that, I'm on the FBVSA, which is the Faith-Based Veteran Service Alliance. That's a White House initiative where I'm the chairman of it. And we work with the VA, the DOD, the White House, and Congress. And I've testified several times before Congress on the best solutions for veterans care, faith-based solutions. I've advised the presidential administration on faith-based options for veterans care. And I've also been able to champion some legislation along with the White House and members of Congress to bring faith solutions back to our warriors. Last week, I was really honored to be part of a small group of people that was invited to be at the White House. I was with the president and vice president and some members of the administration, and we rolled out what's called the Prevents Task Force, which is the president's roadmap to empower veterans and end the national suicide tragedy amongst veterans. And the great news I have to share with you is this is executive orders and legislations that brings faith as a solution to our warriors. And we're just having such a great time in our nation to be able to see those type of things come available in our nation where the government can work with faith entities to bring hope, to bring healing, and bring restoration to our nation. If any warrior that hears this message, whether you're active duty military, from the veteran community, a spouse, or even first responder, hears this message and wants to know more about our programs, or you want to support those programs, you go to mightyoaksprograms.org to learn more. My father, Danny Robichaux, decided to join the Marine Corps after a traffic accident when he was in high school. He was driving to high school, and his best friend was in his passenger seat, and he was like I guess many teenagers goofing off and went off the road and hit the back of a garbage truck and tragically killed his best friend. During that time, he made a decision, from what I'm told, to go to Marine Corps recruiter's office and enlist in the Marine Corps as a rifleman, Marine Corps infantryman during Vietnam, during the height of the Vietnam War. And so he joined at a time of war, in a moment of just trying to reconcile, hurt and struggles in his own life, and ended up serving as a United States Marine rifleman in Vietnam. Hi, my name is Chad Robichaux, and I'm the founder of Mighty Oaks Foundation, and I'm also a former Force Reconnaissance Marine and Afghanistan veteran, and part of a 3-generation Marine Corps family. Following in the footsteps of my father and being a Marine was always something I was very proud of. I really learned a lot about my childhood and why my father was the way he was because of his experience in the Marine Corps. Being a combat veteran, going to Afghanistan, facing my own demons and my own struggles coming home from combat really helps me to reconcile a resentment, anger I had towards my father for such a difficult childhood. And in the end of his life, because he did pass away at the end of his life, we were able to have reconciliation because of the common bond we shared as combat veterans and as United States Marines, to be able to understand and have empathy for him, for the struggles that he faced in his life, and make amends with him at the end of his life. Being part of a 3-generation Marine Corps family is something that just brings great pride upon my family. Not the fact that we got to experience being Marines and benefit from being Marines and the things that you get out of military service, but the fact that our family is a family who's made decisions to serve others and be part of something that was bigger than ourselves. And we, I think all of the people in our family, through our good times and bad times, through the highs and lows, like my father experienced, like I experienced, and like my son Hunter has experienced and probably will in his life. Even in those hardest of times, that the idea in life to put others before yourself, to serve others, that life's not about you. And really, you learn that in the military service. You learn that being part of a combat veteran, about serving other people. And it's just something I'm really proud of, that we have 3 generations of that legacy and history in our family.
Hello everybody, my name is Hunter Robichaux. I'm a 3rd-generation Marine. I'm currently serving in the United States Marine Corps Reserves. I am a forward observer, and I have been with my unit now for approximately 6 years. So growing up, I saw my dad deploy quite a bit. I saw him as a young Marine. Not very vivid memories of him going into the reconnaissance community, but him deploying a lot as a Recon Marine to Afghanistan. It gave me a goal in life to walk in the footsteps of not only him, but the men he served with. I saw a lot of good men go before him and the men that he served with, so that was something I always wanted in my life. I wanted something that was bigger than myself and something that I can have for the rest of my life, that I would never, ever be able to find anything that would match it. From day one on those yellow footprints at MCRD, San Diego, or Parris Island, you're instilled that it is not about you. It is about to the men and women left and right of you. And that's something so special about the Marine Corps, because they break you down from being all about you to being all about your team. Being part of a 3-generation Marine Corps family is a pretty big deal. There isn't too many 3rd-generation soldiers, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, Space Forcemen now, or Marines. So it's a very special thing to see. You see a lot of like, oh, my dad was a Marine, so I joined the Marine Corps, but definitely not as many as like my grandpa was in Vietnam, my dad was in Afghanistan, now I joined and I'm in Afghanistan. So it's a pretty big deal, especially being a child when we were doing the invasion of both Iraq and Afghanistan. It's a very big piece of my heart to be able to deploy to the same place my dad deployed to. And it's almost surreal sometimes, because I look back and I'm like, man, my dad deployed to this area in Afghanistan. Now I'm at the same spot in Afghanistan that he was at. So it's an extreme honor to serve the United States of America and serve the United States Marine Corps.
I think one of the coolest things, but also one of the hardest things, is that we both got the experience of both of us being Marines. Is one, obviously I was extremely proud of you when you joined the Marine Corps, became a Marine. I was like really happy and motivated, and I remember telling everybody. And then when I found that you're deploying, like how nervous I got, because I had complete confidence in like your ability, just watching you grow up and the training you had, and I just had confidence in your ability, but I was just scared as a dad, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was in Afghanistan all these times, and I never thought my son would go to Afghanistan, and then you deployed, and a lot of the struggles I had with my own like anxiety and depression and just like old panic attacks that I hadn't had in years, like all those things I started struggling with again, and it was just so different being on the other side of it, like with you going. And I thought back like, oh wow, you probably had to experience some of those same things with your dad being gone. And I remember times like me leaving, and like you were smaller and like hugging me and crying, and you were like crying so hard. I remember with my last deployment, you were crying so hard you couldn't even stand up. Your body was like, you were just like crying, and so it was like it was always easy for me to go, but then now I was getting left back, and that just didn't feel right. It felt so weird. Like I still don't feel that old, where I should not have to stay home while my son went to deploy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember definitely being younger and like super, obviously like at first it wasn't as big of a deal because I just saw you going to work. That's how I saw it. But then once I started maturing, like it then like see how many times like you were gone, it definitely was like more real. And then like hearing the stories when you come home, like when you got home, like I would just ask for presents. Like, did you bring me anything home from Afghanistan from like a bazaar or something? So but then like the reality started to hit, like when you like started coming back more, and then being able to see the difference, and then hearing about buddies getting hurt and stuff like that. And then when Foster died, like that stuff happened, like, so definitely like made my mind kind of nervous.
Yeah.
So I would say like, obviously like I wasn't like nervous at all to really go to Afghanistan, and I don't think you were nervous at all to go to Afghanistan. But it's the people at home that get nervous.
Yeah, that was different. It was different. I told a couple people while you were gone, I'm on my 9th deployment, and it's the hardest one.
Yeah.
It was the hardest one for me. And so I got a taste of my own medicine, I think. And it was hard, but I didn't want to take that from you. I was like super proud of you, and I'm glad you went, and glad you got the experience, got to serve that way. And I'm just glad you're home.
Yeah, definitely glad I'm home.
We're both home.
Yeah.
And now now it's really cool that we get to work together at Mighty Oaks, and take both our experiences and serve others who are out serving and going to come back home.
Yeah, definitely. It's finally nice to be able to like be on the same level as like the guys that come through now, because obviously like when I was a kid running around Fight Club, or now called the Legacy Program, it was a lot different. So like being able to come back now, like as a guy that's been to combat, and talk to these guys and be on the same page as them now, and understand the things they're talking about, not only from the stuff of combat to the stuff of being stuck on a base and being bored 24/7.
And help the younger.
That's myself, Sergeant Bloomling, and the skipper, MT Author, who will be on later on the show. Today is a very great, exciting time with NRN Plus because we're expanding the show. We're also going to be looking to expand it in the future for more days and more times, but the need is already there for our brothers and sisters who have served and their family members and all of America who want to support our military members and their families, which is just outstanding. And tonight we have a great show with us tonight. We got my personal friend and military brother, Lenny Sage, with us. And actually a big shout out to his wife, Kathy, who also served. We got to get her on the show in the future. That's going to be so exciting and awesome. And I met Lenny down in Key West traveling. So we got a great story tonight to talk about him. We got a news break that's going to be happening with MT, the skipper. He got a special segment that we're going to be integrating. And we also have our main guest tonight, Chad Robichaux, with the Mighty Oaks Foundation, who's doing amazing thing. It's a faith-based organization. And I even applied to go through it the other day myself because, you know, there's something that happens when you bring God and military members together. And it's something that I really believe in. And that's how I've been able to accomplish a lot of things that I've been in my life because of God. Because, you know, when you go through that struggle and you're out there and it's just you and your battle buddy, or it's you and God, and you got to be able to survive and get through that. So it's so great to have you here with us tonight. Please like us, share our show on Facebook, on YouTube. Make sure you support our program. We definitely want to highlight veteran business owners. So we got a lot of energy, a lot of great things happening. And God bless our Gold Star families. Thank you for your service. And I got people contacting me every day who want to be on this show. So trust me, if you're a veteran and you have a story, that's the whole purpose of this show, is to get your voice heard. And with that, Lenny, thank you so much, my brother, for coming on the show tonight. I love you as a friend, as a mentor, and as you know, there's always somebody who comes before us, and there's always somebody that's going to come after us. And the next generation is a reciprocation of you and I. So thanks for your service, Lenny.
My pleasure to be here, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So this audience here, you know, why don't you tell them who Lenny is? What have you done in the military? You're an Air Force vet. A little bit about you.
All right. Well, I joined the Air Force in 1979. Did 8 years active and stayed in reserves, but then became a civilian police officer, Prince George's County Police in Maryland. And with 20 years there and then another X amount of years in the reserves, I got 26 years plus in law enforcement, carrying a gun and a badge. But I did the training I did in the military. I kid you not, I think I trained more with the Army and the Marine Corps than I ever did with the Air Force. And that's where I really gained a lot of knowledge with having inter-service relationships.
You know what? I'm so glad you're on today because it's important. You know, we have the next generation. You know, we have I was pre and post 9/11. So, you know, I was a part of the Gulf War era and the global war on terrorism. So, you know, I was a rare breed. I was in Germany on 9/11. So I was actually in uniform when this country came under attack to terrorists and mainly Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda. And we went down and we made sure we took care of our business with them. But, you know, it's a joint effort. But, you know, we still have, my dad served in Vietnam. You know, we have a lot of medical conditions, Agent Orange. You know, one of the things about my father serving on the Kitty Hawk, he worked on the flight deck. He died very young, actually, in 2010. I think he was like 52 or 53. And the planes were coming back with Agent Orange. And I didn't really think about that until way after I had served and got out of the military. So there's a lot of things that happened. And I believe that we got to continue to fight for our veterans who, you know, have been there for us in the past. So it's great to have individuals like yourself who gave 26 years to this country and law enforcement. You know, your background, it's so specialized. And I think that's great because right now we're having major problems in America and our police are under attack. And having served in the military and the police force gives you a unique perspective. Why don't you talk about that and how we need to defend the police instead of defund the police?
Well, I kid you not. If I had to go back to being a police officer these days, it would be a very difficult decision for me to make. It really would. The type of atmosphere that the police are actually being greeted with these days is just not conducive to positive police work. Everything we do is going to be challenged. It's going to be videotaped with with cell phones and whatnot. If back when I was a police officer, body cams were just starting to come in as I was retiring. But yeah, being a police officer nowadays, it's going to be tough. It really is for these new troops coming in.
Yeah, and you know what? Pay depends on a variety of circumstances and where your location is and what unit you're with or what kind of specialized work you can do. I mean, and right now I just feel like they're a target, and I think that's unacceptable. You know, it's for example, you know, people who served in Vietnam or the Globe War on terrorism, we come back home. You know, we just want to have a quality job, you know, buy a house, you know, move on with our life, you know, feel appreciated and valued. You know, that's why I tried to give love to all of our military community, because right now, you know, even our brothers and sisters, they're serving right now to protect us. And on top of it, you know, you got to deal with COVID, or, you know, people got to wear a mask. I see that in training and stuff. So it's just a totally different environment. And a lot of times our police, you know, there are some bad characters out there. You know, corruption exists everywhere. I mean, you know, if there's money involved or there's, you know, a seizure, you know, there's those things that can happen. I mean, people take advantage of their position, abuse of power. What's your position on the people and the leadership that you served with in the police force and the military, and that what made you the person that you are?
You know, it's funny that you mentioned that about abuse of power and such. You know, if I could digress just a little bit, we've all heard that saying that, you know, one bad apple can ruin the entire barrel. And I will definitely say that I've worked with bad police officers, but they are, quite frankly, the minority. Police officers as a whole are trying to help people, period, in a conversation, little dot at the end. They're here to help people. In the military, the same thing. Of course, it's a more regimented atmosphere, if you will, but you got to do what you have to do. But, you know, as a police officer as a whole, you know, we're here to help people. We really are. And to have people criticize us for every signal move that we do, you know, it's kind of a sad thing. It really is.
Now, what kind of respect did you get after you know, transitioned from military into the police force? What kind of respect did you believe occurred, or like, you know, how was that transition? Me, I was never a police officer, but as a kid, I felt like I was a detective. I always wanted to solve problems. I loved that as a kid. And I can only imagine, you know, putting on one hat after having a different hat on, because serving in the military is completely different than the military. We're fighting for freedom in the military and to protect our way of life. Whereas in the police force, you're protecting the community and families, and you're trying to keep law and order. And you know, it's a whole different ball game. What's your perspective on that, Lenny?
You know, the transition for me was, I won't say easy, but it wasn't tough either, because, you know, I had that respect for a regimented kind of atmosphere, if you will. And, you know, so going into the police department, you know, doing sit-ups, push-ups, whatever, make sure your shoes are shined and creases, you know, in your uniform. That wasn't a problem at all for me. And what I did see is that there were kids coming out of college, and I call them kids because I was 28 when I joined the police department. And these kids were coming in at 20 years old with a degree in, I don't know, communication or something of this nature. And suddenly they want to be a police officer. Do you have the wherewithal to do that? You know, and you could see them struggling, but, you know, the majority of them made it. They really did. They really did. But for me, actually making the transition, it was I guess easier than a lot of people would think.
Yeah, we have a lot of military members that are transitioning. They were MPs in the military. But the crazy thing about our MOSs in the military, and that's military operating specialty, is that when you have your MOS and you come into the civilian world, it doesn't always translate. You don't get the same credit. You don't get the same abilities and the jobs that you did in the military. You can't do in the civilian world without getting a special certification or going back through the police academy. But in some instances, for example, carrying a concealed weapon, you don't have to go through the training because they assume that you had the training and you don't have to go through that. So there's all these little nuances when you leave the military. And we do have a lot of military members who want to take care of their families. They do want to get into law enforcement. And then they have to go through this kind of like, you know, it can be very disheartening to a lot of veterans, I'm sure. If you come out and then you're like, you know, you protected America overseas, and then you come back here and you can't do the work that you're trained to do. or they want to pay you less and you know your qualifications. It's like anything in life. It's who you know a lot of times. And what's your perspective on that?
Well, when I left the military, I was actually security police, or it's now called security forces, but when I left, it was so-called security police. And I was an investigator, and I was an NCOIC of the investigative section. So for me to leave the Air Force as the NCOIC in charge to go into, straight back down to the bottom, find your square, put your feet right here on the square. They're going to break you down and build you back up again. That was a difficult part for me, because I felt that I won't say that I knew more, but I thought I had a better respect, or I guess outlook on what police officers needed to be. And, when I finally got into the academy, they could see that. And when we graduated, I was actually the class leader, because they could actually see the leadership qualities that I had.
You know what? One of the things too, and this translates perfectly right into the next thing I really want to talk about with you today, and that's red flag laws and hardening our schools. Now, we have a lot of patriots, so-called patriots out here, who don't believe in having guns at schools. The thing about, I fired surface-to-air missiles, missiles on the ground, missiles from vehicles, 50 cal. I mean, every weapon out there, mines, grenades, everything out there, I fired at being mechanized infantry. I was actually on a Bradley infantry fighting vehicle, and I did it all out there, and I trained to do it, or if I was deployed, whatever the case may be, you have to be ready. But a weapon never did anything. Somebody has to pull the trigger on it. And when you're talking about the schools, even though COVID's going on right now, you still have to have protection at the schools, because anything can happen. But here goes something that happened the other day I thought was really crazy, is now you have to worry about domestic violence at homes of people. And this happens on military installation as well, where kids are at home now. This is their home. And then there's a domestic dispute or something happens, and now the kid's life is in jeopardy. So whether the kid was at school or they're at home, there's this little kind of like gap. And for some reason, legislators don't want to accept responsibility for that. And they'd rather just have tragedies like Parkland and things of that nature. Now, both of us are down here in Florida, and we know the impacts of that. I believe having somebody with a weapon at a school that's formally trained, especially a military member or specialized law enforcement, they're going to be able to deter a threat.
Oh, indeed. There's no doubt in my mind. The biggest thing about defunding the police, especially when it comes to school resource officers, SROs, and they're pretty much in every state throughout the continental United States. And I was asked to be an SRO in Prince George's County when I was there. And I just kind of had to say no, because the kids there had zero respect for the police officers. So that's going to make it difficult, number one. Now, the parents, if you put a hand on a student back in the day, and I say back in the day, it's 20 years ago, you put a hand on a student, you could expect a lawsuit. And that was just too bad, because the kids were the little knuckleheads. They put themselves in that position. I'm sorry about your luck, but you really did. Now, if you want to defund the police now, that's exactly where the first thing they're going to do is take them out of schools, take them out of transportation, like subways and such, buses and this nature, and they're going to take them away, from where they actually need to be. Now, how is that going to work out? And I've also heard something about sending, oh good Lord, what was it? Sending social workers in on domestic violence cases. Instead of sending a police officer.
I did hear that. This is insanity. Insanity.
Let me know
how really insanity. Oh my gosh. Like, I don't understand, like, where is this thought process coming from? Like, I have no idea. I mean, like, a person that's reasonable realize that person cannot be trained to do that. Oh my gosh. Right. That's just terrible. Like, honestly, I don't even know where this stuff comes from. It's like, it's so blatant, like, just insanity. It really is. Back to the red flag laws, our Second Amendment protects our First Amendment. We fought to keep that in check here in this country. And you saw under COVID, they came out, everybody has social distance, wear your mask. And then they riot and nobody talks about COVID. Now they try to burn the country down. And veterans are getting upset about this. There's a lot of vets out there, high-level veterans, who are just saying, hey, enough's enough. We fought for this history. And, we need to do something, because a lot of times, veterans kind of get pushed to the side, I think. And that's why Veteran Nation is so important. And that's why I believe in this and what we're doing here. And I've been working like over 20 years of my life, adult life, towards this and helping to move the needle and educating people and advocacy for our veterans, whether it's healthcare or their benefits. I mean, we got to fight for our veteran population, but also our veterans are very trained. They have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to go out and defend the Constitution in real time. What do you think about that?
Well, I totally agree with that. I absolutely, I'm on board. And with respect to veterans, if you were actually discharged honorably and have a 214 that says so, here in Florida, you may very well know this, but here in Florida, you can actually go down to the county office, submit an application and show your 214, and they're going to give you your concealed carry, because they assume that you are good to go. Now, I agree with that. I don't know if that's part of the entire red flag law. I must admit, I'm not entirely.
So red flag laws are basically, you have a veteran. I have a Glock 45 caliber. I carry it everywhere I go, SF, right? Everywhere I go, I have a concealed weapon permit. I have my Glock on me. People are like, why do you have a gun? Why would you have a gun? You have to protect yourself. You have to protect your family. Anything can happen. I mean, I'm always on guard. I got a 360-degree circumference of what's going on, situational awareness every single day. You know, my sit rep, and I'm always making sure that I got, a good viewpoint. And all veterans are like this. I mean, if you're a veteran out there and you're watching Veteran Nation with the sergeant and skipper, I know that you relate to this. And if you really served and you really love this country and you want to protect the Constitution, I know in your heart that you're probably doing a lot of the same things. So with that being said, red flag laws are basically like, hey, you know what? Lenny, he carries a gun every day. He's a threat. I call into the police department. I say, hey, you know what? Lenny has a gun. He's a vet. He's unstable. They come in, they seize your guns. That they look at you like a threat. That's what red laws is. It's basically profiling somebody, so that if you're in a situation, you're not doing anything wrong, and then all of a sudden a law enforcement individual or somebody trying to protect that law is going to come in and take your guns and basically invade on your privacy and your rights as an American. It's a terrible thing. Red flag laws in this country. If you're a Republican and you support red flag laws, I can't understand it. Now, if you're a liberal and you served and that's what you believe, hey, no problem. I respect you 100%. But that's not how I feel. No,
and now that you mentioned it, I mean, I'm sure I've heard of the red flag law before, but I'm going to carry, period, into conversation. I just am. I can carry as a veteran with my 214, and I can also carry as being a retired police officer. So regardless, yes, I'm going to have a weapon with me very close, very close. And if I'm out there and I see something going wrong, hey, I'm going to take action if I can, and I can do it safely without getting somebody else hurt, not necessarily myself, but getting anybody else hurt. I'm going to take action. I definitely am.
Well, that's the thing. We need to be aware right now. The thing about a concealed carry is that nobody knows you have a weapon. Now, you have some vets out here now that I love open carry. I think it's great. I mean, you should be able to open carry, but you're making yourself a threat. So sometimes when people open carry, I'm like, you're not understanding the full power that you have and that you're giving to the enemy. You're basically, if you have somebody that's a perpetrator and they mark you, I mean, this is why red flag laws and keeping a gun registry are terrible for this country. Because if they know what you have and it's registered, guess who they're going to come after? They're going to go after you first because they know of it. They're also going to go after me because I'm speaking about it openly in the public, on communicating it nationally. Those kind of people, those are the kind of people the deep state really don't want in power. But also, there's the everyday things that are just occur. Nobody expects, something to happen. And just, when you least expect it, that's when it will happen.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And with respect as far as weapons and owning weapons, I don't know if it's the proper thing to say or not, but I've got many a weapon in my arsenal, and there's only 3 or 4 that are probably registered, only because I bought them brand new. So other than that, I can't speak for the other guys. I just can't. But you're exactly right that if Uncle Sugar wants to come and take your weapons, he's going to be knocking on your door.
Absolutely. Now here goes another thing. Now you have a service dog, buddy. When I met you down in Key West, I was traveling. This is probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago. We've known each other for a while now, which
Yes.
is just crazy how time flies and the things that happen. And I'm a firm believer in the secret. I just believe when you do great things in this world, you meet great people. Not every day, but a lot of times you do when you're doing the right thing. And when I met you, you had Buddy, and Buddy's still with you. And I didn't know this actually until, like maybe a year or two ago, that he's actually your service dog. And that was amazing because I'm a 90% disabled veteran. I had 2 traumatic brain injuries in the military. I was actually in a Bradley that flipped over in Germany. And, I saw people as service dogs. And as a veteran, that was something that I always thought in the back of my mind, I want a service dog. I think that would really help me. But it's like, the timing is right. You can't just get a service dog as a vet just because. And now that I've actually have one, Chanel, who's in the promo, everybody knows Chanel. She's an amazing dog. She'll be 6 months in about a week and a half. But I'm training her myself now. Well, Buddy and the Buddy's replacement, you got a new dog too as well. Well, you can tell us the audience about that. But you're actually sending it through training. It's 2 different methods, but I think the main thing is that people don't realize in the public what veterans have done for this country, the things that we have gone through and the impacts. And, having like a dog, can you move your pet? It's not a pet, I call her my soldier's dog. That's what Chanel is. I should trademark it because that's
Right.
what she is. She's my soldier's dog. She's amazing. She loves me, and they make sacrifices for us. And, I think the military dogs are an important part of our history and our culture here in America. And when they retire, even military police dogs, they get retired and they need homes as well.
They do. And I mean, she's your newest little battle buddy. She really is. And she's going to step up. I'm sure she already has. She really has. But yeah, with Buddy went through training in North Carolina, excuse me, from a retired military working dog person from the Army. And he was being transferred overseas as a civilian contractor, and Buddy became available. So I got Buddy that way. He'd already been trained. Now Charlie, she's going through training here in Florida through a kennel and a training facility just down the road. And he is a retired deputy sheriff who was a dog handler and dog trainer for the sheriff's department. So now he's doing it on the civilian side, and he's selling dogs to the military or training dogs for the military, training dogs for the civilian aspect. So Charlie's going through training with him. And she has been, right now she's just a little pain in the hind parts because she's 17 months old and she's just full of piss and vinegar, but she is just a hoot. She's gone through a few months of training. And she's very good when she's on leash. It's just getting her off leash. And that's the next step of the training.
Yeah, it's really, it's just, I'm blown away. And a lot of vets out there, their family members, try to get this as a solution. We have so many vets out there who are feeling alone. And I'm telling you what, since I got Chanel, I just feel like the weight of the world is off me. Like, honestly, I was running for Congress, doing all these things, but it doesn't matter what you're doing and who you're trying to help. You still, as a soldier, as a veteran, still need to take care of yourself. And a service dog is not a bad thing. But the problem is when you take it into the civilian world, it's a different story. So I've been a disabled vet since 2002. I got out, honorable discharge. I didn't even know about a disability rating. I ran into a guy from the DAV, Disabled American Veterans, and they said, hey, if you're dealing with these things, you can get a compensation benefit for your injuries. So, I've gone through this process through all these years, and all my injuries are internal. So, I haven't lost a limb or nothing like that, but, I've left arm numbness, I have migraines, I have all these things that I'm dealing with. And, degeneration, I had it in one of my vertebrates. I just had x-rays through my chiropractor it took 2 years for the VA down here in West Palm to outsource my care. So I finally got there, and now I have 3 vertebrates that have degeneration. So, I'm dealing with all these things. And then, to our audience out there, now I got Chanel, And now my injuries are external. So everywhere I go, people are like, oh, well, you look fine, or, you get all these judgments. And it's difficult for our veterans and their family members, because I tell you what, a service dog is a godsend. Since she came into my life, I just think she's been just amazing to help me to reduce stress and not cause anxiety and things like that. And then it's like the civilian force, sometimes they don't understand that we need more education in that area.
Well, that's the other thing, Mike, is that I've ran across this I don't know how many times, but he's even got his vest on, okay? And we walk into a restaurant, they go, we don't allow dogs. I said, well, he's a service dog. Well, we still don't allow dogs. Well, you can't deny me entry, and we go through this entire, hiccup, if you will, and it's just a pain in the ass. But if the restaurants and businesses would just understand that a person walking into a restaurant with a dog is not just a person walking in there in the restaurant with a dog in every occasion. Now, when I walk in there with a dog and my dog sits as I'm talking to you, being well behaved, and as we walk in and I put the dog down, and he lays right there or she lays right there, that is a different type of dog. It's not the little yappy dogs. It's not the dogs that are going to be slobbering and pulling at the leash at every occasion that he or she can. But I think that's the interpretation that a lot of, I guess, door personnel or business managers take, is that your dog is going to be a menace or being a problem to our business here, and which is so unlike the occasion.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, as a veteran, we're not going to go through this whole process just so we can take a dog into the restaurant. Right. I mean, I just flew with Chanel the other day. That was great. You know what? A half hour goes by so fast, Lenny. Tell people where they can go see Buddy's Adventures on Facebook. He has his own Facebook. Get any closing words you want to say. Thank you so much, Lenny, for your service. God bless you. God bless your wife. God bless your family. To our veterans out there, I love you. I support you. And thank you, Lenny. Any closing words, and we'll go to a break.
If you'd like to follow Buddy's Adventures on Facebook, and Charlie is on there as well, and she's going to be my new mentor as far as walking me through this world. And Mike, thank you very much, sir. Hand salute, and I appreciate everything.
Absolutely,
you do, sir.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a new segment here on Veteran Nation. What we're going to do is this is going to be veteran news. We're going to talk about veteran news and issues that are affecting veterans in the military. So without further ado, let's get into the headlines and we'll start discussing this. This week, a United States Air Force helicopter was shot at in Manassas, Virginia, injuring one crew member. Currently, the FBI has this under investigation. This is just a good reminder for everyone that the military always has a target on its back. It does not matter if they are overseas, if they're here in the U.S., there are going to be those people out there who want to target our military. So whether they determine that this was just an errant round, or if there was actually someone trying to do harm to our military flight, that's still under investigation, so hopefully we'll get some answers to that in the coming weeks. Also, Hawaiian officials has announced that the military accounts for 7% of Hawaiian COVID cases. Now, this is, there's a lot of military in Hawaii, but this 7% apparently represents more than what the military represents of the population. However, I'm not surprised by this. I actually think this number's quite low, because with the military, we try to social distance, we try to, keep away and wear masks and everything, but there's a lot of cases, especially in the Navy, where you're going to be right next to people in close proximity. It just cannot be helped. Our ships are only so big and they have to be manned by so many people. So I'm actually shocked that this number is as low as what it is. I would have expected it to be much higher. Fort Benning, Georgia, the commanding general has announced that they will be using a new We Care app to combat suicides. Now, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent about this. This is more of senior officers doing something without doing anything. With this app, there's no one out there who's going to tell me that, well, the whole thing of suicides is because we don't have an app. That's beyond ridiculous. This could be a tool to try to help mitigate it, but honestly, I don't really think it's going to be much. The military has spent millions of dollars investigating the whole suicide issue because it is so big and so rampant. They hear back a lot of the same things, that people feel lonely, they don't feel like there's a support structure. You got to think, these are, for the most part, young men and young women who have left home for the first time. They've gone, in many cases, all the way across to the other side of the globe. They don't know what type of support is out there, and they feel alone. You know, they get depressed. That's, you know, I think of the song Mr. Lonely. That's very much how a young military member feels, is they feel alone, they feel forgotten. You know, their girlfriends break up with them or their boyfriends break up with them, and they have to deal with all these issues on their own. Now, the way we used to handle it is when if you weren't an NCO, you were thrown into a squad bay, and you were there with your closest people around you, and very quickly, everyone got into everyone else's business. And when something would happen to an individual, everybody knew about it. Everybody, you know, would try to support that individual. Hey, their girlfriend broke up with them. Let's take them out and try to show them a good time. Things like that. That is the support structure. And we've tried to increase their living capabilities in the military. We've tried to make it a nicer, friendlier place. But as we've done that, we've moved away from a lot of these support structures. And what I saw when I was in was that was where a lot of these cases, when we would get someone with suicidal ideations, a lot of times it was people who were fairly new, didn't have a lot of roots in the unit yet, hadn't quite learned where, you know, everything was, where they could go for help for different things. So this app is just more of senior officers not listening to what the problem is, in my opinion. And you see that quite a bit. Senior officers, they want the problem to go away. So they're going to throw money at it, because that's most of the time how they solve problems in the military, is they'll throw money and time and attention to it. Very rarely does that work. We've seen this time and time again in the military where as we've tried to throw money and time at something, it doesn't solve the problem. It sometimes makes it worse. Sometimes it goes down to where it's manageable. But most times what you need is someone who comes in there, takes real leadership and says, okay, here's what we're going to do to solve this problem. And then it actually gets solved. This is a big thing that's going on in the military across the board with the senior leaders, is they are constantly not listening to their junior leaders. The whole problem of suicides, I believe, can be solved by a lieutenant and a sergeant somewhere in every unit. All it takes is that engaged leadership. What has been happening, though, is the senior leaders, there's no trust to the lower ranks. So what they do is they put something in place where it's like, hey, everyone's going to do this training, and this training's mandatory. So now there's going to be training, which means that NCO and that junior officer, now they've got to work more, and you know, they're going to be given a percentage, like 75%. That's what we have to do to be successful. So they're going to work to that 75% to get at least 75% of their unit trained. Beyond that, it might happen, it might not happen. But that's all they've done. And that 75%, you're treating people like numbers, which is exactly the problem of these suicides. Is too many times these military members are being pushed into different circumstances, and they just feel like a number, because that's exactly what the senior leadership has shown everyone, that this is how we'll treat people. So this is just, as I read this story, that was just one thing that jumped out. I was like, this is just a senior officer doing something without actually doing something. And it's a waste of time and money, in my opinion. Congress has blocked the U.S. arms sale to Turkey for the last 2 years. This is quite common if you've ever worked with any type of foreign military sales cases. It's pretty common that they will block things. Turkey got expelled from the F-35 program. They also chose to purchase the Russian S-400s as a missile defense rather than the U.S. Patriot missile system. So there's a lot of things going on there. Turkey is still a NATO ally, but with Syria and with a lot of the other things that have come into play, like, they wouldn't let us move our troops and equipment through Turkey for Iraq and Afghanistan, things like that, have built up some tension that wasn't there previously. So I have zero doubts. I believe Congress is absolutely, they have some type of end game with this. There's something that they want from Turkey, and they're going to use the blocking of these arms sales until they get whatever they want. They didn't say in the story what it was, but you don't always project that. Also, big story this morning. Israel and the UAE have agreed to a peace deal. That's going to be a very big thing. It's a very positive for the Trump administration, but it's a positive for the world. The UAE is a very moderate Arab country. Them working with Israel is going to be a good thing. Hopefully more Middle Eastern states follow down this path and try to work towards peace deals. This is something I was expecting. I didn't know it would happen this fast. Having lived in the UAE, there's still going to be tension, but at least now they're acknowledging that they can be neighbors with each other, and that will be a good thing. And I congratulate this president on this deal. I really want to, congratulate both Israel and the UAE for their dedication to peace. This will be. This has the potential to be a watershed moment in the Middle East, and hopefully stabilize that region. So this has been Veteran Nation News. We're going to be doing this every week. If you have any stories that you think that we should be talking about, send them in to us. We'll get them on the show, and back to our normal show.
Well, hello, church, and happy 4th of July weekend. We are so blessed to be in the land of the free, where we can freely worship God and come together, even virtually, to study His Word. And while I'm your guest speaker today, hopefully I'm not a stranger to many of you. I am a member of the Heights Church family, and while we aren't together in a building today, I'm sure I'll share with you how thankful we all are to be part of just an amazing community and church family. Before I get started, I want to tell you a little bit about what I do. And as a ministry, I'm part of the Mighty Oaks Foundation, which I'm the founder of. And a lot of people from the church already know about Mighty Oaks and support Mighty Oaks. But for those who don't, Mighty Oaks Foundation is a veteran service organization that's faith-based. We provide care and services to those who are struggling with veteran suicide. If you don't know, the suicide rate is over 20 per day. Those who are struggling with military divorces, up to 80% from our combat military families. And those who are struggling with post-traumatic stress. After 20 years in a war on terror, we have over 30% of our warriors still being diagnosed with PTSD. And so we provide a faith-based solution to those things. We do resiliency programs. I travel around the world to military bases and speak to active duty troops on spiritual resiliency, suicide, post-traumatic stress disorder, divorce, things like that. I've spoken to over 150,000 active duty troops. And then we have a recovery program where we have 4 ranches around the nation in Texas, Colorado, Virginia, and Ohio. And we bring warriors from active duty in the veteran community, as well as first responders and spouses, to these programs for absolutely free. We even pay for their travel. We bring them there and for 6 days, and we do about 30 of these camps a year to really help them align their lives to the lives they were created to live and move forward to the life that God has in store for them. And then we have an aftercare program, which Charlie and Kathy Kuhn are part of our aftercare program here at the Heights Church, working with the organization we're partnered with called Reboot, and doing aftercare. We do tons of things for people that after they come to our program to get the care they need. Outside of that, I'm on the FBVSA, which is the Faith-Based Veteran Service Alliance. That's a White House initiative where I'm the chairman of it. And we work with the VA, the DOD, the White House, and Congress. And I've testified several times before Congress on the best solutions for veterans care, faith-based solutions. I've advised the presidential administration on faith-based options for veterans care. And I've also been able to champion some legislation along with the White House and members of Congress to bring faith solutions back to our warriors. Last week, I was really honored to be part of a small group of people that was invited to be at the White House. I was with the president and vice president and some members of the administration, and we rolled out what's called the Prevents Task Force, which is the president's roadmap to empower veterans and end the national suicide tragedy amongst veterans. And the great news I have to share with you is this is executive orders and legislations that brings faith as a solution to our warriors. And we're just having such a great time in our nation to be able to see those type of things come available in our nation where the government can work with faith entities to bring hope, to bring healing, and bring restoration to our nation. If any warrior that hears this message, whether you're active duty military, from the veteran community, a spouse, or even first responder, hears this message and wants to know more about our programs, or you want to support those programs, you go to mightyoaksprograms.org to learn more.
Yes, thank you so much for tuning in to Veteran Nation with the Sergeant Bloomling, myself. I'm so grateful and honored to have you on. And my boy, my friend, Skipper, thank you so much, Skipper, for doing the show. It's awesome. I mean, the week just flew by, didn't it? I mean, we just did the show last week and people, it's hot. I mean, we had Lennie Sage on earlier. Now we got Chad Robichaux coming on with Mighty Oaks Foundation, who's working on the Trump campaign for our veterans. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. I mean, this is the hottest show that's out there right now. And we'll talk a lot about Chad's new show as well. So how are things going for you?
Oh, it's just been fabulous out here. This is our expanded show, which is something that I know you've especially fought very hard for. So I'm very happy that we're expanding, that we're doing more interviews, we're getting more people on. This is really exciting. But, what really brings us back home is that we have another guest who's going to be on today, who helps veterans. And that's what this whole show is about. This has just been amazing, and it just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, having NRN Plus supporting us, we need organizations out there. We need advertising. I mean, go out there, support us, follow us on Facebook, like us, follow YouTube. There's a lot of great things that are happening, but our military brothers and sisters, our veterans, our family members, they need us now more than ever because, there's a lot of stress going on. People are dealing with anxiety, depression, mental health issues, and we really got to fight back. We got to provide them with the resources. That's why my great friend Chad and I, we've been talking and going back and forth. He's so busy, got so much going on. He's doing so many great things for our veterans, and I just love that because him and I drink the same Kool-Aid, just like you, Skipper. We make sure that we put boots on the ground. We're really passionate. And one of the things I love about Chad is he has a strong faith, and his organization, Mighty Oaks Foundation, I actually applied to go through it, Chad, because I want to experience that with my brothers and sisters, because we can all sharpen that tool, the tools in our chest. We can all sharpen our tools. We can all do better. We can all grow. We're not above it. I mean, that's the thing about leaders. Leaders are really stepping out and trying to do things, not for self, but for selfless service for others. And I love your faith-based organization, because that's where it starts. When you serve God, that's when you can do extraordinary things and miracles happen. And our brothers and sisters, they need us. So Chad, thank you so much for coming on. God bless you. And, just tell the audience about you and what's been going on.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. Thanks for you guys for what you're doing, your show, and your heart for your fellow veterans. And I mean, I know you guys have moved on from active duty to doing other great things, but you didn't forget where you came from, and you're still serving those who are serving. And so I just love seeing that. I love being on the show today. So a little bit about me. I mean, I'm a 3rd-generation Marine Corps family. So my father was a combat veteran. He's a Marine in Vietnam. And myself, I was a Force Recon Marine. And for those listeners that don't know what Force Recon is, because we're a little more quiet about it than Navy SEALs, we're a special operations branch for the Marine Corps. And you have Force Recon, you have Recon Battalion, and you have MSgt in the Marine Corps. So I spent most of my time as Force Recon Marine. And then the 3rd generation of my family is my son Hunter, who's an Ankle Co Marine, who just got back from Afghanistan. So all 3 of us served in combat. He did his first deployment. I did 8 in Afghanistan, which is crazy for me, because I did 8 deployments to Afghanistan, and then my son gets orders to deploy to Afghanistan. And I'm like, didn't I already get this done? Like, it was just insane for me to send my son to the same place that I've been. And I tell you, that 9th deployment, because I call it my 9th deployment, was much harder than the first 8 when my son was on.
I bet. That's an interesting thing. I'm 4th generation military. My dad was in Vietnam as well. He was on the USS Kitty Hawk. And, I was an Army brat, right? So when you grow up in a military family, things are a little bit different. You get a little inside knowledge, and then now your son, he's serving downrange. It's like you just said, these insurgents, they keep coming back. We knock them down and they keep growing up. I mean, we got to continue to fight these wars, but we need good policy behind it. Why don't you talk about what you're doing with the Trump campaign and how you're trying to really ensure that the Middle East and other hotspots around the world are kept in check?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. You talk about deployment and policy. One of the things that gave me really peace, and I'm not saying it's just because I'm on the Trump campaign and I am the veterans policy surrogate for the Trump campaign. I'm not saying it just because I'm on the campaign, but as a father who had been in Afghanistan and sending my son there, one of the things that I had to weigh is he going to be able to do his job in a way that could keep him safe and keep the people around him safe? Rules of engagement is really important to me. And I tell you why, because if you look at the rules of engagement between President Bush, President Obama, and President Trump, the numbers of casualties on the battlefield and U.S. service members' deaths on the battlefield is staggering. And people, when they go to the vote in November, I think too many Americans are voting for Biden or Trump. Forget voting for any person. You vote for policies and what these candidates bring to the table. The rules of engagement with President Bush and 7 years of war on terror, we had about 600 deaths on the battlefield and about 2,500 wounded, which is a lot. I mean, it's not a high number considering the thousands of bad guys that we slayed, which is awesome that we went out there and kicked butt. But 600 deaths, I don't want to minimize that because every family, had mourned those, as goes to our families. But then you go to the Obama administration, and one of the first things President Obama did, and I won't let Joe Biden get off of this, the President Obama and Joe Biden did, was went on a worldwide apology tour, apologizing for America, apologizing for our military. And he promised to do this in the campaign, and he did. He changed the rules of engagement. And that resulted in almost, in the same time as President Bush was in office and President Obama, 600 deaths to 1,800 deaths and 2,500 U.S. service members wounded on a battlefield. Rules of engagement definitely matter. Policies matter to your service members when they're out there. It mattered to me sending my son to Afghanistan, knowing that he was going the same place I went, and knowing that he was going to be going under better rules of engagement. Because one of the things that my son got to do was serve under the commander-in-chief of President Trump. And those rules of engagement that's one of his campaign promises, was giving good rules of engagement for our U.S. service members so they can be safe and keep America safe. And he did that. And those rules of engagement are keeping our service members safe. They keep them alive and letting them do their job. The numbers, again, 600 under Bush, almost 1,800 under Obama, and under President Trump, there's been 63 deaths. Every one of those count, but I'll take that number any day over 600 or 1,800 or 25,000 25,000 wounded under President Obama. We've had 400 wounded under President Trump. So the rules of engagement really make a difference, and it really mattered to me as a dad sending my son over there.
I can tell you, Chad, having been in the Middle East when Syria kicked off, also the Yemeni civil war kicked off, I can tell you that policy, when it comes to people being able to do their jobs, is incredibly important. I served under Bush, Obama, and Trump. And I can tell you that during my time with the Obama administration, the policy was not fully flushed out. There were lots of questions. It made our job incredibly difficult to do. Now, I do have a son. He does say that he wants to serve one day. That's his choice. I can only imagine what it's like for you being on the flip side. Can you talk a little bit about some of the policy things that you've recommended to President Trump so far?
Well, not only does it matter in the battlefield, and to equip our warriors to be able to defend themselves, to preserve our freedoms and a way of life, and protect people around the world that can't defend themselves. Not only is that important, but when our warriors come home, they have to be able to be cared for, and that's probably the side I have the most experience with. I won't go too far into it unless you guys want me to, but when I came home from my 8th deployment, I like many warriors, I faced head-on some of the challenges our warriors face. I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I nearly went through a divorce with my family, which I've been married 25 years now. I faced anxiety, depression, and a battle with taking my own life. I had to make a decision, and I really struggled with the decision. I attempted to take my life and become another veteran suicide statistic of, if you guys know, it's over 20 a day still. And so I faced all those things, and a lot of things played a role in getting me well. But the most important and significant thing that helped me was the restoration of my faith. I'm a Christian. The restoration of my faith, surrendering my life to Christ, and making a deliberate decision to align my life with the life I believe I was created to live, radically changed my life. I tried everything. I tried the pills, counseling, VA programs, all these nothing really changed. I even had a lot of success. I was a professional athlete. I won a world championship as a fighter and ranked number 6 in the world. So I had all these other things that should have on the surface made me better, but none of them did. But the restoration of my spiritual foundation of my life radically changed me. It brought restoration into my life. It gave me hope again. And it ultimately led me to find purpose again. And that purpose was serving other warriors. And so when I started serving other warriors, obviously, anybody that goes through something like I experienced, you want to pay forward what was given to you. And so that spiritual remedy, that spiritual rectification, we started a program, Mighty Oaks Foundation, where I do resiliency programs, and I've spoken to over 150,000 active duty troops around the world on spiritual resiliency by bases all over that invite us to do that. And we have 4 ranches around the country in Texas, California, Virginia, and Ohio. We even have one that we're using in Montana now, a 5th one. And we bring active duty and veterans to those ranches, all paid for, even paid for travel. And we bring them through a spiritual restoration process. And you don't have to be a Christian to go. We have probably about 50% of people that come are atheists, but we teach them how to live the lives they were created to live, despite what they faced. And we've had 4,000 graduates and radical success in that. In fact, we've only had 1 suicide of the 4,000 graduates, and we deal with some very high-risk people. And so I say all that not to promote Mighty Oaks, and I am promoting Mighty Oaks for any veteran listening or anybody wants to support, but that's not my point here. My point in saying that is, as I was doing this program, witnessing what happened in my own life and the lives of thousands of other warriors, I knew that this needed to be available to every veteran, that every veteran had choice. But as I'm working with the military under the President Obama's administration and Joe Biden's administration, as I'm doing this, I'm realizing how many things how many obstacles for faith-based programming to work with the VA and DOD. And so I started to try to uncover what had happened and why it was so difficult, why people were saying that we couldn't do this. And what I learned was in 2001, President Bush signed an executive order called the Opportunity and Faith Initiative that allowed faith programming to work with the VA and DOD. It's an incredible program, 7 years in the war of terror, helped so many warriors. In 2009, when President Obama signed an executive order to overturn that. And he got rid of faith-based programs and community programs, and 100% of the care shifted to clinical. The Obama administration spent billions of dollars, stood up 1,500 brand new clinical programs. In a period of only 4 years, the suicide rate went from 16 to 22. It spiked. And so obviously, community programs, alternative programs, faith programs have a role in the impact. And not that they're being forced on the veteran, but the veteran should have a choice in which, whether to get physical programs, mental programs, clinical and community programs, or to get faith-based programs. They should have that choice. And so in 2016, I was given an opportunity to sit in front of candidate Trump at the time and ask him any question I wanted. They said, what's the question? Of course, I had to write it down and because they want to know what I'm going to ask him. But my question, it was pretty easy for me. Candidate Trump, he's about to be president of the United States. Any question I could ask, it was very easy for me. Mr. Trump, if you become president of the United States, will you bring faith-based programs back into the VA and DOD? And he said yes. And, in campaigns, they say a lot of stuff and rarely do they come through. I think President Trump, and the reason I think he'll get reelected is because of the promises made and the promises he's kept. And that's kind of campaign talk, promise made, promises kept. But he did. And he did on this. He came true on this in 2018. He signed an executive order that allowed faith programs to come back into the VA and DOD. I was one of only 20 people, 20 guests. There's about 30 cabinet members there. And I got to be there at the White House when he rolled out the Prevents bill, and which prevents is the president's roadmap to empower veterans of international tragedy, veterans suicide. And in that program, it includes faith-based solutions. The president said, any obstacle that's in the government, anywhere, we're cutting the red tape. We're making it happen. No stone's going to be left unturned. Every American is call to action. It is not okay that 20 of our veterans are killing themselves every day. Let's make it happen. And he did. And now I'm getting to be part of the implementation with Secretary Wilkie and helping to implement these faith-based programs back into the VA. And it's historic. No president has ever done anything like this before. And the veteran community deserves it. They deserve it and deserve that choice to get well.
Absolutely. You talk about the faith-based component of it, and veterans need to be able to choose the care for themselves. They don't need it forced upon themselves. That's why I was running for U.S. Congress. We need more advocates in Congress and in our legislative branch who are fighting for our military members who are serving overseas, but also our veterans and their families here back at home. Because when you don't have a choice and something's forced on you, then you kind of feel like you're left on you're left on your own, or you're being forced into something. And it's really interesting because right now I really feel like America, that's one of the main things that are under attack. And that's the faith component of what people choose to do. That's what we fought for when we went down range, when we served overseas. We fought for that freedom of choice. And when you can't go to church or exercise your freedom to go practice whatever faith that may be, if you're an atheist, you're an atheist. Just like you said, I support you because I fought for you to be an atheist. If that's what you believe in. I'm a Catholic, I'm Christian, I'm Judeo-Christian. I love everyone. I'm trying to fight for the better of humanity. But at the same time, our veterans and our people that are viewing this show, they really need to hear that. And they need to have real talk from individuals like ourselves who who are facing the same challenges. We're no different. Every day you wake up is a miracle. It's a blessing because some days you don't want to wake up. Some days you feel like, hey, you know what? I've been facing these challenges. And that's what we're doing here on Veteran Nation. We're trying to get these stories out into the communities to invigorate them and to get them excited and realize that you have so many assets to America. Your skill set is so valuable. And I think a program like Mighty Oaks Foundation, more people need exposure to that. You've impacted 4,000 people's lives, but we need to get more people impacted, and that's what I'm about, the force multiplier. I always think about the macro level and how we can do things to improve more veterans' lives, because one veteran killed downrange, one veteran injured, one military member injured downrange, one person that commits suicide, that's too many. It's unacceptable. And I know me personally, I won't sleep. And I know you're the same way, Chad. We won't sleep until we fight for all of our military members, their family members who served, because that's what we believe in: duty, honor, country.
That's absolutely. I mean, look, we are not out of the woods because we're downside. We're reducing our forces overseas. I mean, we're still 20 years in the war on terror. We're not done. U.S. service members, even if it's not on the news because the mainstream media don't want to talk about it, they're out there fighting right now and defending not only our country, but protecting people around the world that can't protect themselves. And when they come home, they need to be cared for. I mean, our nation's sending them out. We have a grateful nation of Americans that want to take care of them. And luckily, we have a commander-in-chief right now that wants to take care of them. But it's going to be going on for a long time. We're still seeing Vietnam veterans come to Mighty Oaks. They're still struggling. We had a Korea veteran come to Mighty Oaks. So, I mean, the veterans in the war on terror are going to be being cared for, and America needs to care for them until, for the rest of their lives.
One of the things I really, go ahead, Skipper.
Oh, I was just going to say, one thing I really like about your program is that, I was talking earlier today in our veteran news segment about Fort Benning, Georgia, is doing this new app to try to combat suicides. And that's very passive. But what I like is with your Mighty Oaks Foundation, it's much more active, and it's much more getting them involved, getting people the help that they need, and empowering them to really take hold of their lives.
Well, one of the things that, a lot of people, this, by the way, there's 40, I'm jumping around here. It's 43,000 veteran service organizations in the nonprofit world. They're called VSOs, veteran service organizations, 43,000. A lot of veterans service organizations out there. A lot of them doing great things. Unfortunately, some that aren't doing great things, taking advantage of the veteran community and raising money off of the sympathy that America has for our veterans. But, we grew to be, Mighty Oaks grew to be, and I'm not saying this braggadociously, but we grew to be one of the bigger ones. And a lot of people come to us and ask, how do we grow so big? It's not because I'm smart. I promise you. And I can tell you the reason why is because we're veterans helping veterans, paying it forward. And for those Christians listening, we use a process that we in the Christian world, we call it discipleship process. And it's really just mentoring mentors. And for those who aren't Christians, mentoring mentors. So when a veteran comes through our program, they get well. But they're not fixed. It's not all better after a 6-day program, but they made a decision to get well, and they start moving forward. And they may not have arrived to that wellness and that holistic point they want to get to, but they know where they're going. They're able to point, say, I'm coming out of this dark valley and I know where I'm going, and I'm going to take others with me. And so we give them this process, this discipleship process they can jump into. It's our leadership program, and they go through phase training and they get mentored of how to help other veterans. And it really brings purpose back in their life. It gives value to their hardships and their trauma. It lets them say that, yes, some bad things happen to me in my life. I can speak for myself. Some bad things happen to me. I lost 12 buddies in my deployments. I had a rough childhood in my life. I had all kind of bad things happen to me, but those bad things, as bad as they were, didn't lead me to be in that closet one day with a pistol in my hand trying to decide whether I want to live or die. What led me there was a choice I made in response to those things. And I never had lost control of that ability to choose. And so you hit these moments like in Mighty Oaks, and you hit this one moment in your life and you're like, wow, okay, I could choose differently moving forward. And that's where the biblical principles come in. We give them something to align to and calibrate to. And then we put them around a great camaraderie network, this brotherhood that helps them move forward. And then we let them be part of the process and say, okay, now I'm moving forward. I have purpose again, and I can turn around and help someone else. And that has been the reason that I didn't grow it to, reach 150,000 active duty troops and 4,000 graduates. I didn't grow it to that. It's been the warriors that came to the program, found hope, found healing, found restoration, found purpose moving forward, and brought others along with them.
So Chad, I was on your podcast with Jeremy, and a big thing for me is mentorship. So I'm glad, that you got into that, because mentorship is such an important aspect of giving back to the community and our veterans so they understand and they can relate. I believe in the authentic leadership model, and that's real things that you've been through that other people can relate to. You and Jeremy wrote a few books together, I saw, and I see it out there. You guys are doing great stuff. what are the pillars that, you know, based, even though it's faith-based, what are some of the pillars that you and Jeremy really believe in that really help to transform? Because, you know, it's great to have organizations that are doing the right thing. That's important, you know, because you got to decipher, and veterans have to go through, and sometimes they go through those bad organizations, other times they go through the good ones, and we want them all to go through good programs. But what are some of the pillars that are really important and the fundamental building blocks of what you've created there?
Well, I mean, you know, if you're speaking about individuals, the individuals need to be, and the military has this model: 4 pillars of resiliency, 4 pillars of combat readiness, 4 pillars of recovery. They're the same: mind, body, spirit, social. Have a strong mind, a strong body, a strong spiritual foundation, a strong social network, and that goes the same with an organization. I think it applies. It doesn't only apply to combat and readiness and recovery. It applies to life. You have to be strong and have a good foundation, all those areas. Mighty Oaks has a very strong spiritual foundation. When it comes to, you know, the physical, we have a great structure of an organization. We have a great plan. We have a real clear vision. We make sure the organization stays focused on that vision all the time. People coming in and be like, "Oh, have you heard of MDR? You should be doing the MDR here. Have you heard of taking veterans out horseback riding? You should do that." There's tons of great things that other people could do, but we decided a long time ago what we're going to do, and we've stayed laser focused on that because we don't need to do everything else. There's 43,000 veteran service organizations that are doing everything else. We need to do what we're good at, stay focused, and we have done that really well. And then I'd say probably the most you got a spiritual foundation, the mental and physical, knowing how to run an organization, have a good structure. But one of the most important things Mighty Oaks has that has made it successful is we brought the right people on board. We're very blessed that all the right people come on board, from our board of directors that govern the Mighty Oaks Foundation and make sure we have financial transparency, that we're spending the money the way we're supposed to spend it. 80% of our money is in programming. So 20-80 is a pretty good split for any nonprofit, especially one our size. Anybody that says they have 100% of the proceeds go to the organization, well, that's not really a good model, because that's not really a business. It's a volunteer organization. I got employees that work full time, and they deserve to be paid for their work. They work really hard to take care of veterans, and it's a good, healthy organization. And when you see organizations the opposite, and they're spending 20% of programs and 80% of overhead, that's a problem. And so we have great board of directors. We have a great board of advisors, that are people that help us navigate the different areas through legislation in Congress, access to the military, mentorship and support and direction for me as the founder. We got guys on there like Lieutenant General Jared Boykin, Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, Sergeant Major Colton Kent, former Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Conway. We have Alan West, Congressman Alan West, Lieutenant Colonel, who's like him and Sergeant Major Kent are probably like just two personal mentors to me that I talk to very regularly. And so having the right leadership over me, that submitting myself as a leader of an organization, submitting myself to accountability as a leader of the organization, and then putting the right people in the right places, and then trusting them to do their job. Just like in the military, you put the right people, the right places. Andy Stanley says, have the right people in the bus. And we have the right people on our bus, really hard workers that do a great job. And all of our leadership, or not only military, but they're combat veterans who came through our program. So our leadership is that we have, and then in our administrative roles, we have just really high level talent from all over the spectrum of the industry. Our chief operating officer has tremendous amount of experience. Our finance lady who does our finance team, the ladies that are there, they just have tons of nonprofit experience. Marketing director. We just have such great people that are just experts in their field, and I don't know how I acquired them all. I just give credit to God for the orchestration of putting all these people, this team together, because it's just absolutely incredible.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things too is, you know, you as you help these veterans, the transition really helps future generations. So not only are you helping the 150,000 current military members, but in the 4,000 veterans, you're also helping their families and move forward. You know, that's a big thing out here. You know, a lot of families, they get, you know, when somebody serves in the military, the family is sometimes lost on this. How is the family integrated to Mighty Oaks? How are they, you know, they're not actually going out to the ranches with the soldiers, but the ramifications of them going out there is coming back to benefit the families. because right now we have a lot of veterans who are going through divorce. You almost went through, as you talked about, I'm divorced. I got 2 children. They're 14 and 16. Divorce is terrible. The wear and tear on the veteran and their families is astronomical. And so that's a big part of it too, is the healing that veterans go through, but also their family members and how they can, see the joy in their children or see the love that's there. Because a lot of times there's a lot of division in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we realized a long time ago when Mighty Oaks first started, it kind of started like a men's veteran program. And we were looking for veterans who were already out. And then we knew we could really help men. And we realized quickly that we need to get ahead of them being a veteran, and then got to the active duty troops. And of course, that was, like I said, that was a struggle during the Obama administration. It's been great the last 4 years. But we realized really quickly that, one, there was female veterans that needed help. And two, we were helping these male warriors and their wives were struggling, because you talk about PTSD. Some of these veterans give their wives PTSD. Some of the ways they behave, come home and behave. My wife could give you a testimony of PTSD from the way I was when I came home. So, I mean, just getting around the whole family, because you're right, the divorce rate on some basis. I mean, I know Camp Pillen and the combat veteran divorce rate's 80%. So lots of hardship that comes through military service, and we have to be able to provide and care for them. So we have our women's program. We have a men's and women's program. Most of the women's program are spouses that go to that program. And then if a spouse goes to either the men's or women's program, then we pay for it. We used to do it ourselves. Goes back to when you have someone else doing something really good, why try to replicate it? Partner with them. We partner with Family Life Ministries, who does a weekend to remember. They do them all over the country. They can do them quickly. And so any veteran that goes to our program or active that goes to our program, whether it's the male or female, we'll pay for them to go to Family Life Weekend to remember to invest in their marriage.
So I do have a question. If one of our listeners, if they're a military member or they have a military member in their family and they think that they could benefit from the Mighty Oaks, do they just contact their chaplain to try to get in touch with you?
No, I would just go right to our website and let us help you. If you're active duty, let us help you get the orders to come, because we could get the PTAD, permissive temporary assignment of duty orders for you. So I would just go right to our website and apply, and our team's really good at navigating, getting you there. If you're in a veteran community, obviously you're out already. It's very easy to come, and we pay for everything, including the travel and airfare. So you just go to mightyoaksprograms.org. This really should be really easy, even for my fellow Marines, to find it. It's just right at the top of the webpage. It says apply. Click on the apply button. We make it pretty easy. We'll get more information from you later, but we make the application pretty easy to not deter you from applying. Apply, and one of our team will get right back to you. We have those 4 ranches, so you'll go to either California, Virginia, Ohio, or Texas. And we run 30 programs a year, so there's no shortage of dates. And we've never had to turn anyone down yet. So we don't, by the way, I always like to make a note. We don't care what your discharge is. If you got kicked out, whatever, if you got a dishonor, because a lot of guys who struggle with PTSD and have been to combat, they come home and they struggle, and then they end up getting DUI or whatever, and they get kicked out of the military. And then a lot of these programs won't take them because of their bad discharge. Man, I don't comprehend that. To me, your bad discharge is a result of your service, and you never got well. So let's get you well. And so we don't care. We'll get you in the program.
That's great to hear. Chad, so now you have a new show that you started, and why don't you tell the audience about your shows, what you're doing out there to further amplify, just as we're doing here through Veteran Nation. That's why Mighty Oaks Foundation and NRN Plus is really a great fit, because we need to amplify that voice out there through social media, through television, through satellite. I mean, whatever way that we can get this information, because a lot of times our veterans aren't able to access it. Maybe they don't have a good internet, or they're in a rural area. That's the same for healthcare. We have a lot of these challenges that veterans are facing, and also our women veteran. I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I love seeing your Instagram posts, and I love watching everything you're doing for our women veterans, because I tell you what, our women veterans, they fought just as hard, and they served this country, and they need their recognition as well. One of the things I wanted to do running for U.S. Congress was I wanted to put legislation forward so we have a National Day of Recognition for our women, because I don't think we do enough for our women veterans.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have amazing advocate for women veterans on our advisory board. Retired Command Master Chief Erica Kelly, who's the Command Master Chief for the entire Air Force Reserves, and so she's that's why we brought her on to Mighty Oaks. I mean, she was the senior enlisted for entire Air Force Reserves, and just a warrior in and out of uniform. Loves warriors, but really an advocate for female warriors, and she's been able to really advise us how to care for them as best as we could. Our show, we realized a long time ago that we need to do everything we could to reach out to the communities, because not all the time the chaplains are the best resource for information. That a lot of times chaplains aren't very motivated. There's some great chaplains out there, so I'm not bashing it, but chaplains don't seem to be very motivated. And unfortunately, the veteran community didn't listen to chaplains very much. They're not so we want to do our effort to be the best outreach we could. So we started the Mighty Oaks Show. And the Mighty Oaks Show was our own internal podcast to look at life issues and share the biblical solutions to those life issues that we discover at Mighty Oaks. Because we can do what we can help more veterans that way. But we also know that other people outside the veteran community face these same issues. I mean, veterans tend to want to hold on to this PTSD thing like it's ours, but it's not. I mean, trauma is not a veteran issue. It's a human issue. And so people struggle all through life, and we can share those lessons with others through a podcast. That's what we want to do. So we did the Mighty Oaks Show. We've had a lot of success with the Mighty Oaks Show at acquiring applications for veterans to come to the program and helping people in their lives. And so we took it a step further. We keep it the Mighty Oaks Show, and we partnered with Salem Media, who reached about 11 million listeners through their network, and we became a Salem Media show. We started a show called The Situation Report, and we look at current events, struggles that people are dealing with in everyday life. We bring on an expert to talk about those things, and me and Jeremy will sit down and talk with that expert about whatever the issue may be. We talked about transgenderism in the military, and then we talked about cancel culture the other day, different things, Second Amendment, things like that, where people might have questions and need to go to get the answers. And it's a short segment, 30 minutes, but we get right to it. It's very poignant. We have because of having so many listeners, we're able to acquire some pretty high level talent and good quality experts for the shows.
That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely.
And you can listen. You can find it. I mean, whatever your local station is, you can probably find it on your local station. But if you just go to salemnow.com, it's the best place to find it. We have the video broadcast on salemnow.com.
That's really awesome to hear. That's a lot of positive things out there happening, and it's good that there's an organization like Mighty Oaks out there reaching out to the veterans. So I really thank you for doing everything that you're doing.
Absolutely.
So Chad, you have a high energy. You learned a lot of skill set in the military. And when you look at the people that go through the program, you see a lot of times that they just need that encouragement. Everybody takes to information differently. What are some of the core elements you think, even though it's faith-based and somebody might not be of faith, what do you think it's something that what is it about your program specifically that if they're a veteran out there, they're watching this show, they're listening, what would make them want to go to apply that's like, hey, you know what, this is transformational?
Most of us, and I'll speak to the men real quick. And, I'm not a woman, so I'm not qualified to speak to women. and I can speak to them. So I'll speak to the men. I think most men don't know how to be men. They don't know how. And that's not a attack on any individual. That's just true. Our culture has really got away from understanding masculinity and manhood. Most of us go into the military to think that military is going to teach us how to become men. And it doesn't. It'll teach us how to do our jobs really well. I mean, if you go in the Marine Corps, they can teach you every way inside and out how to be a Marine, how you be a United States Marine and be a really good United States Marine. And whenever you get to MOS school, if you're going to be an infantryman, the Marine Corps is going to teach you how to be the very best infantryman you can be. But that doesn't necessarily equate to manhood. And I think most of the time we equate manhood with becoming a man with like maybe achievement in life. When I got my first paycheck, when I killed my first person, when I slept with a woman, like all these different things that guys equate to manhood, but none of those things really define manhood. The Apostle Paul from the Bible said, when I was a child, I act like a child. I behaved like a child. I talked like a child. But when I became a man, I put childish ways behind me. There's a very clear and defining moment in the Apostle Paul's life when he became a man. And I don't think that's very clear for 99% of the men, and at least in our culture in America right now. And so one of the things that we teach warriors to come through Mighty Oaks is how to be men. How to be men, not only just be men, but be men of purpose and be contributors and producers in society. And I think most people flounder their whole life trying to find that, trying to put their finger on, like something's missing, like something, I'm just not quite, there's something missing in my life. They can't put the finger on what's missing. But what's missing is that sense of purpose, because we were created to have purpose. And if we don't have it, we kind of wither up and die inside. I mean, if you want to know why 20-something veterans take their life every day, it's not because of something they've seen or did. It's because they felt important one day. They felt they had some sense of purpose, some identity they were tied to. And when that was taken away from them, their purpose was gone, and they feel like they don't have anything to wake up for tomorrow. So we give them that purpose back. We give them a sense of purpose, a sense of new mission again, and we help them learn how to calibrate their lives to the very lives they were created to be the men they were created to be, and achieves the things that are burning inside of them that they want to achieve. We teach them how to do that. And whether they're Christian or not, the Bible gives a very clear kind of methodology for calibrating your life to the life you're attempted to live. And so sometimes guys will come and they'll find faith, they'll find God through the process of Mighty Oaks because they're like, wow, this is amazing. I never thought this existed of it, but other times they'll just take those principles and live them out. And I believe, Christian or not Christian, if you align your life to biblical principles, you're going to land in a pretty good spot. Now, I would take that as a Christian, I would take that a step further and say you're going to land in a really good spot if you are a Christian, because beyond this world, you're going to land yourself in an eternal security. But nonetheless, it has been our methodology, and a very successful methodology, for taking people who have experienced the brokenness in their life, flailing around trying to find direction and purpose, and finding their life again, and finding a purpose moving forward. There's a quick quote I want to share with you. Mark Twain, one of my favorite quotes, and it just talks about the sense of purpose. Mark Twain says the two most important days in a person's life are the day that they're born and the day that they find out why. Obviously birth is an important day. It's the day our life begins. But when we discover why we were born, what we were meant to do, and get tapped into that purpose, a fire's lit inside of us that, brings excitement, zeal. You said it earlier. You said, I have a lot of energy. I have a lot of energy because I feel like I have a lot to do. There was a time where I didn't have any energy because I felt like everything I had to do was over. I didn't have a mission anymore. I didn't have anything to wake up anymore. Now I wake up every day and I'm like, I got 1,000 things running through my head that I have to do because I'm driven with a sense of purpose and mission again. And that's how we were created for. We weren't created and sit idle.
That's fantastic.
We got a world to conquer, man.
Man, you're spot on, and I think that's true of a lot of veterans, that they feel like that they have a lot of purpose. And, when they don't have purpose, that's when they start to shut down. So we encourage people that are listeners to go work out, meet somebody new, follow your faith, make a new friend. It's all makes a difference, and I was talking about it earlier, but Chanel decided to crash the party, my service dog. And, the thing is that, whatever it is that can help you, that's what we're here to do. It's not a cookie cutter approach. You don't have one thing that is just going to solve everybody's problems. It just doesn't exist. What I believe is that you give somebody the ability to succeed, and that's what we want to do for our veterans. Chad, how can people connect with you? How can people communicate with you? I know you're so busy, but sometimes it's like the little things that matter, and that's what I believe in. In the military, it was attention to detail. I was a non-commissioned officer in the Army, and that's what we had to focus on. We had to focus on what's in front of us, and our training had to take effect because it was life or death.
Yeah. Well, first of all, to reach me, I'm on social media. I'm most active on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook as well. You just look at my name, Chad Robichaux, and then definitely follow Mighty Oaks Foundation. You can check out the website, Mighty Oaks, on all social platforms as well. And the SITREP, get on the SITREP and check it out. And start listening. SalemNow.com.
Thank you so much, Chad, for coming on, man. I love you, brother.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to talk to you again, man. Keep on keeping on, man. God has a special place in this world for you. I'm glad that you decided to move on and live your life and to fight for our other brothers and sisters, because you know what? They're dependent on us. And the three of us here today, we can make a difference. God is working through us every single day. And I pray that everyone out there in need, that God touches them today and they know that their life is valuable. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Hey, God bless you guys. Thank you
Take
so
care,
much
brother.
for having me on. Glad I finally made it.
Thank you, Chad.
care,
Thank
brother.
you. Thank you to all the people who work at your organization and all the people that volunteer as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.